sole goal is to delay. And yesterday, he got his wish for now. Judge Tanya Chutkan postponed indefinitely the March 4th election interference case, writing, quote, "The court will set a new schedule if and when the mandate is returned. But never fear, the Manhattan DA is here with a March 25th trial date right around the corner." Joining me now, former federal prosecutor, host of the Justice Matters podcast, and MSNBC legal analyst, Glenn Kirschner. Glenn, my friend, let's put the conspiracy theories to rest, shall we? Let's talk about why the fact that the D.C. election interference case is not on the docket anymore is not all doom and gloom.
It's not, because Donald Trump's criminal trial dance card remains packed. He has at least 2 trials in the coming months, either of which could go. In theory, they could both go. So we will see Donald Trump criminally prosecuted in the coming months, in one jurisdiction or another. I think the next court date to pay attention to, Katie, is March 1st. Now, just as you indicated, the March 4 trial date in D.C. for him trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election has dropped off the calendar. And, that trial will now have to await resolution of the appellate issue regarding this nonsensical claim of presidential absolute immunity. But recall, Judge Cannon in Florida, that's Donald Trump's prosecution for unlawfully retaining classified documents, for obstructing justice, and for violating our nation's espionage laws. She set a status hearing date or a scheduling conference date for March 1st. Why? Because by March 1st, I think we all knew whether the March 4 trial date would go or not. So technically, the Donald Trump is now freed up, not only for his Manhattan District Attorney prosecution. That's also an election interference case, falsifying documents to try to gain unfair advantage in the 2016 presidential election. That's scheduled for March 25th. He's freed up to go to trial on March 25th. And technically, he may also be freed up to go to trial down in Florida on May 20th, which is when that trial is presently set for, though I think we feel like Judge Cannon may try to sort of push that one down the road a bit.
Yeah, and I've got Mark Zaid later in the show to talk about that Mar-a-Lago case and how the SEPA deadlines may or may impact that May date. But Glenn, I'm so glad you brought up the Manhattan DA case, and I'm glad that you brought it up in the context that it is an election interference case as well. A lot of people refer to it as a hush money case, and of course, there were hush money payments that were made to Stormy Daniels. But the crux of the case deals with Donald Trump trying to hide the fact that he had made those payments in the first place to influence the outcome of that 2016 election. Talk about what you think about Alan Weisselberg being in negotiations right now to plead guilty to perjury, and whether or not you think that incentivizes him to perhaps come clean about his former boss.
Yeah, I think the Alan Weisselberg cooperation train left the station long ago. We know Alan Weisselberg is a crook, and now we know he's a liar as well. I say crook because he's a convicted felon for having been involved in a 15-year-long criminal scheme to defraud in the first degree while he was part of the Trump organization. He pleaded guilty to that. He went to Rikers. He served time for that. He came out, and Katie, what did he do? Well, it looks like he went right up on the witness stand in Donald Trump's New York civil fraud trial and lied. And that lie would have had the effect of helping Donald Trump in that case. So, yeah, we hear about Alan Weisselberg negotiating a guilty plea to that perjury charge. I don't see him being a viable cooperator. I would call him a 10-foot pole cooperating witness. If he's a cooperating witness at all, nobody wants to touch him as a witness except with the end of a 10-foot pole.
And Glenn, quickly, before I have to let you go, I want to stay on that Manhattan DA criminal case because it's a case that is grounded in documents, in the payments that were made, et cetera. It also has a star witness in Michael Cohen, who's had his credibility tested, and he's actually seeing now that stuff like Alan Weisselberg being prosecuted for perjury actually bolsters his credibility and his arguments. But how quickly do you think that trial could take place?
Oh, I think the March 25th trial date should stick. I see no reason why Donald Trump will not, have his first criminal prosecution commenced on March 25th. And, you know, witnesses can always lie, certainly. But you know what doesn't lie? That audio recording where Donald Trump was caught on tape discussing the hush money payments. You know what else doesn't lie? The reimbursement checks Donald Trump was writing to Michael Cohen to cover up the corrupt scheme. And he was even writing those reimbursement checks out of the White House after he had been elected. And as you say, Katie, this may be a falsifying business records case. It may be a hush money case, but you have to ask why he was paying the hush money. It was to bury from the American voters deeply damaging information about, you know, his suitability to be president. He robbed us of the full value of our vote with those criminal hush money payments. So I expect Alvin Bragg's prosecutors to characterize this as an election interference case, because that's what it is.
Glenn Kirschner, my friend, always good to have you here because justice matters. Thank you so much. And a special programming note, starting next Saturday, you can listen to every episode of The Katie Phang Show as a podcast for free. Scan the